Did the Utah Utes make a mistake by not adding a veteran backup in the transfer portal? We're going to talk about it on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. It's your first time listening to this show. Make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $200 in bonus bets, and when your first $5 bet wins, you get instant rewards. My name is JT Wistersill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Elijah Grayson Murray, former Utah beat writer, and most importantly, former Utah student, because you graduated, my friend. So shout out to you. Congratulations as well, going to pursue your master's at ASU. I know the Sun Devils got a good journalism school, so we won't give you any crap for that. So great to have you on here, man. And right away, we got to talk about Utah football never stops. And one thing they didn't do, though, was they didn't add a veteran backup quarterback. Is it hard to do? Yes, incredibly, because Devon Dampier played for Jason Beck last year. Anyone coming out here was going to be like, you're just going to let him start. So I understand why they didn't and weren't able to. But last year, we obviously looked back and we're like, oh, it was a mistake that they weren't able to add a veteran guy. And if something were to happen with Dampier again, we can talk about the options Utah has in a moment, Elijah. I feel like it could be a mistake that Utah wasn't, or just a negative sign that they weren't able to. It could be a disappointment, something that bites them later on in the future.
Yeah, looking at the product that all the quarterbacks put out in spring camp, Isaac, who the only other quarterback in the room who has actually had college snaps, did not look like he improved mightily from his play last year, which is concerning in its own right. But it's, in this situation specifically, it's also pretty concerning because you really don't have that veteran presence in the room outside of Dampier that can come in and be like, oh wow, this guy can still steer us, help us stay the course despite not having our QB1 in. And so I think it is concerning to some extent, although Jamarian Ficklin, and I know everyone was raving about him, after the spring game, but he's truly an impressive kid. And I know he's an early enrollee. He should still be in high school. And so the fact that he outperformed Isaac in camp is a good and a bad, because this guy could potentially be the quarterback of the future after Dampier, goes pro, but also he has no experience. So if Dampier gets injured, who do you put in? Do you put in Isaac just because of the experience, and put up with mediocre quarterback play, or do you take a gamble with Ficklin and kind of have a similar thing where his confidence gets shot if, the season goes haywire again?
It's really unfortunate that we talk about this Utah QB room, the past failures haunt them in the present, the bad quarterback development of the past. And I still think Isaac Wilson could be a guy, but you're right, Elijah. The spring game didn't offer much hope that he was a new guy. We still got a while till the season. He could grow and get there. And we're not asking him to start every game like we did last year, but you want someone who can do what Bryson Barnes did during Utah's Pac-12 titles, a guy who comes in and wins, a guy who, when he starts, you're able to beat the Floridas of the world with, the guy that you can beat some teams with. You're not going to be, the fact that Utah got ranked with Bryson Barnes was a testament to the team. And then also Bryson himself, Bryson was a dang good P4 backup. And now he's probably going to get to be the guy at Utah State this year. So good for him. But Utah still not being able to replace Bryson Barnes has been problematic. And you get a Nate Johnson back in that room, but they look like they're going to use him in different roles now too. So it's just unfortunate that those past kind of failures, mistakes, and Andy Ludwig did a lot of great things, but then one of the biggest reasons that Utah ended up moving, he decided to step away from the team, was in large part probably because of the quarterback room that had kind of shaken out. So it's unfortunate that those past mistakes can kind of plague this team now, where we're a year removed from a season derailed because of bad quarterback play. And if Dampier were to get hurt, then I don't think he will. I think he's been durable. I don't think it's going to happen. But if he were to get hurt, we'd be in the same spot as last year.
Yeah, and I like the point that you brought up about Nate, because I didn't mention him as another experienced quarterback in the room, that has snaps, but they're not using him as a quarterback, or at least not as a traditional quarterback that we see them using the other quarterbacks in the room, as. And so he's more of a utility guy who's going to play out wide. He's going to play in the backfield. He could take some wildcat snaps. Like he's really going to be playing everywhere. He's not going to be, QB2, at least from what we have seen so far. He doesn't look like he's going to be QB2, and so that really dwindles down your experience in the room even further, to Dampier and Wilson. The other quarterbacks in the room, you have Ficklin, you have Zurbrugg, you lost Wyatt Becker to the portal. Yep. Who else is there in the room? That
you mentioned Zurbrugg, you mentioned Wilson, you mentioned Ficklin. I mean, I feel like that's all the main guys. Those are all the guys. The main guys. There could be another one we're forgetting, but he's not going to factor into the backup plans right there. Before Utah would turn to anyone else, they'd go back to Nate Johnson.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, do you like pull Luke Batari, graduate assistant, back under the field? Like, the situation looks dire if Dampier cannot stay healthy for any reason. And I mean, the offensive line that we have this year could arguably be the best in the nation. You have a potentially top 10 pick in the next year draft in Fano. And so I think that the protection is a lot better this year as compared to last year. And so you would think that would benefit Wilson in terms of him, being affected by the pass rush that we saw last year. He looked scared. He looked like he was seeing ghosts because he was getting so much pressure. And so, that aside, you think that he would benefit from that. And maybe he still will, as fall camp gets underway, and hopefully he develops more into being that QB2 that we need, at least for now, until, you can find someone later down the line, or Ficklin truly proves himself to be, okay, this guy is just really that good, and we trust in him. But it's, and I also think having last year as an example, it surprised me how we weren't able to get a veteran QB who was okay with being a QB2 and, like a mentor to the younger guys. Obviously, everyone wants to have the glory. Everyone wants to, have that chance to start. But Utah's just not in that situation. And so to not be able to find someone who can, be okay with that role, it was a bit surprising to me for sure, especially because I thought that was one of the biggest needs going into, this transfer portal window. They address wide receiver, which I'm very happy about, but quarterback just still seems out. Dampier and Ficklin are like up here, and everyone else is kind of like in a level below. And I think we need someone right in that middle there who can, provide the experience just until Ficklin is ready to roll.
You believe it's Ficklin right now? I'm going to say who I think it's going to be, at least at this moment, in one moment. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs have been absolutely electric, and if you want to get in on the action, then you need to head over to FanDuel, because every night the NBA is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action with FanDuel. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live, too. They have the player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are you looking to show up in big moments, and how could you look at their trend to see, hey, are they due for a big bounce back performance? Someone like the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're going to be facing elimination. What can Donovan Mitchell do with his team in a lot of trouble against an Indiana team that's been ascending? He asked the same thing for Tyrese Halliburton. He's going to be able to put this Cleveland team away in the Game 5 in Cleveland. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up today. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget, MLB, NHL going on as well. FanDuel has you covered for all your sports action today. Elijah, you mentioned Ficklin as your guy as QB2 right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off on this. And I think right now it'd probably be Isaac Wilson, even though, as you mentioned, Ficklin looked probably a little better than he did. It's just something with the freshman QBs that make me nervous right now after we just went through this with Isaac, him having a year, him coming back, him being the guy that Utah turned to first. He did seem like he had the QB2, even though at times Byrd looked better. I totally agree with that. But I do just still wonder, like, hey, is it a good idea to throw another true freshman out there? That's what scares me. I used to feel good about Utah's backup quarterback room. That was because they brought back Nate Johnson, and they are appearing to use him in a whole nother way. I will say I am very hopeful that if I still would say, like, what is Utah's best chance to win if Devon Dampier gets hurt? I think it's a Nate Johnson package. This is a guy who Utah's won games before. He was Diego Pavia's backup at Vanderbilt. I don't think he just completely forgot how to be a quarterback. So I think Utah's going to use him in other ways because Dampier's so good. But Elijah, genuinely, if something happened with Dampier, I would want Nate Johnson to be the guy out there. Would you rather see Byrd or would you rather see Nate out there?
I 100% agree with you. I think if it comes to a dire situation where Dampier is out, I want Nate Johnson under center. I think going into the season, if we're in a magical land where everyone stays healthy, I think I would like to see Ficklin as the QB2, and maybe get reps if we're like 21 points or something like that, just to get him some reps and stuff, especially with Nate being used as a wide receiver, as a running back, as a wildcat quarterback, etc. But I think when push comes to shove and you need an actual QB2, Nate Johnson has got to be that guy because he fits most similarly to what Dampier, his skill set. And I think having Nate in there would help the continuity of the offense way better than having Isaac go back in and have to completely change, the dynamic of the offense because he's not as mobile. He doesn't have as strong of an arm. He's not accurate. And so, I mean, Nate isn't either, but at least he's mobile enough to provide some similarity to what Dampier does. And so I'm 100% with you. I love Ficklin. I think he's going to be the next man up for Utah when Dampier leaves. But in a injury situation, okay, we need to win, or we need to give ourselves the best chance to win, I would hope that they would put Nate back in.
I agree. But as I said, right, is that probably the most likely outcome? No. I do feel right now it would be Isaac because he still showed some positive signs. There's a reason he is still on this Utah team. He still has a chance to be a P4 quarterback. But like you mentioned, he still left some plays out there, some things to be desired. And as good as he looked in practice at times, I really don't care how good good or bad more so good. If he looks bad, then that's concerning. But if he looked great in spring ball, I really don't care because his issue was pressure. He really struggled under pressure last year. And there's nothing like that game experience when you're a quarterback. So that's still what the biggest thing that makes me nervous with him is too. Do I think he could get a little bit better? I do, just sophomore leap, but it's definitely still a concern with that. How do you view Isaac as a sophomore leap? Do you see there's going to be something there, or do you think it's going to be mostly the same from what we saw year one?
I was an Isaac Wilson apologist year one because he was 18 years old, thrown into the fire. And, for any quarterback, that's a tough situation, especially one that's coming out of fresh out of high school. And he clearly has talent. He was a Max Preps Player of the Year. And he has shown to, have the abilities to be, a good quarterback, especially again in the game against Utah State. I think he showed flashes of having that accuracy. That was the reason why he was so highly touted coming out of Corner Canyon. Spring camp was a bit of a disappointment for me in terms of him. I expected him to take a bigger leap. I think fall camp will be kind of like the kicker. Like, okay, if he steps it up, gets more in his, I think it's something, he has the mechanics, he has the skill set. I just think it's something that is still mental with his game. I honestly think it's because, like you said, the pressure that he faced last year from the fan base, pressure from, opposing defensive lines. Like he had pressure from all parts. And so I think if he can just clear his mind of the cobwebs, I think he truly has a chance to still be a really good quarterback. And obviously Jason Beck believes in him. That's why he brought him back and he didn't let him walk. And so it's so tough because I know he's not like Dampier in his skill set. And Nate Johnson and Ficklin are. And so if you want that continuity, I don't really see how Isaac fits in that moving forward. But if Beck has a special contingency plan style offense for Wilson, if he's the quarterback too, and he truly, sees that leap that Wilson will hopefully take before the start of the season, I don't see any reason why you don't trust him. And I mean, again, he's 19 years old. And so he's still a young buck. And I think I believe in him. I don't know if I believe in him in a Utah uniform in the long run, but I do believe in him. I think he will do good. It's just a matter of if he does good in a Utah uniform or somewhere else.
Yeah, Amanda being somewhere else. I feel like he's likely to be the backup right now, but time will tell. You mentioned the guy you feel like it's likely right now is Byrd Ficklin, and that is a guy who showed really encouraging signs in the spring. A guy that it feels like had the potential to maybe be, as you said, like the next quarterback at Utah, which would be massive. I think with Ficklin, it's what I mentioned. I just really am nervous to have another true freshman and just throw him out there, because even the Dylan Raiolas of the world, who I think overall had a pretty good freshman QB season, it didn't go great because it's just really, there are so few Trevor Lawrences, like Caleb Williams, all those guys who light the world on fire as a freshman. It's really hard to do that. It's an adjustment. It's a learning curve. I think it's best to redshirt. And that's what I would like to do with Ficklin, not to hurt his development, but you might be right, Elijah. He might be this team's next best option to win games right away. And if that's the case, he's going to be out there.
Yeah. And I think for me, it just all goes back to continuity. His skill set is so similar to Dampier's. I know he's left-handed, so that obviously brings some differences to, the way the offense is run. Like you want to push it more towards his strong side as opposed to Dampier's strong side. But I mean, obviously, I'm sure Beck has a easy plan fix for that. I just think he seems mature for his age. He seems comfortable in the offense from what I saw in like the practices leading up to the spring game, and then obviously in the spring game, he wasn't perfect. That's what you expect from someone who's an early enrollee, just like Isaac Wilson. But he seemed comfortable in the system, and despite the wide receiver drops on a few of those plays, he managed to get the ball into their hands. And so that's, for me, was a positive sign. The one thing that I will mention, just like you said, is his experience. You don't want to put him in the fire and have his mindset shot before, he even has the chance to be, develop into his skill set. And so that is the dilemma that Utah faces this upcoming year, because you have a very inexperienced quarterback room, and you don't want to ruin anyone in the room as best as possible. You already saw how that messed with Wilson last year. I don't think you would hope that they would learn from their mistake this year. And I mean, you have a great offensive line, so that obviously settles some of the concerns from last year. But I don't see how. Okay, if we're going off of skill set alone, I think Byrd would be quarterback 2. If we're going off experience alone, I think Wilson is quarterback 2, just because I'm thinking they learn from their mistakes. Byrd, don't put him in that situation. Let Wilson deal with it. He already dealt with it. Let him overcome it and improve himself. And I also think that would be beneficial to Wilson, in case that happens. I hope it doesn't happen, because I don't want any of this to contingency plan to be in effect. But I think it would help Wilson to be the quarterback 2, also because, it would help if he's not Utah's quarterback of the future and he decides to move on. I think it would be you do him a good service by giving him that opportunity to be quarterback 2. So if it does happen, he can prove himself to another school, and hopefully get the shot there, wherever there may be. But I'm a Byrd believer. I think he's gonna be great for the university. Do I think he's going to be quarterback 2? I hope he is. I don't think he will be.
A Byrd believer. Make a shirt out of it. That's how you do it. Well, you could be the first to start it. There is a guy we haven't talked about in this quarterback room, though, I think could potentially factor into things. Also, got to talk about Britain Covey getting an opportunity with the Rams. We're going to discuss that all in a moment. Today's show is brought to you by Post District. Discover Post District, home to 4 of Salt Lake's newest and most stylish apartment buildings: the Register, Post House North, Post House South, and the 801 Flats. Each residence offers its own unique take on luxury urban living, with features like waterfall kitchen islands, floor-to-ceiling windows, vaulted ceilings, and spacious patios, plus walk-in closets. You can enjoy premium amenities, including the city's largest residential gym, a year-round pool golf simulator, year-round pool and golf simulator. That'd be cool if they're together, but year-round pool and golf simulator too, plus massive TV wall for sports watch parties. And if you like this show, you're probably going to be into that, plus more, all anchored by a one-of-a-kind community. Step outside and find yourself immersed in Salt Lake's hottest dining and nightlife scene with award-winning spots like Urban Hill, Men's Show Ramen, Level Crossing, Melancholy Wine Bar, and Sunday's Best just steps away. Whether you're looking for a studio 1, 2, or 3 bedroom, penthouse, or you can find your perfect home today. Visit liveatpost.com or call 801-590-6247. Mention this ad for the exclusive incentive too. Once again, if you're looking for a studio 1, 2, 3 bedroom or penthouse, you can find your perfect home today. Visit liveatpost.com, call 801-590-6247. Mention this ad for an exclusive incentive when you check out what the Post District has to offer you today. Last guy, when you talk about the quarterback room, is Zurbrugg. It's a guy who came over, transferred from Oklahoma, Brandon, I think it is, excuse me. He comes over, and he's a guy who comes in with some excitement, but he didn't really rise up to QB rankings. He didn't play until the second half of the spring game, and he was fine. I don't know. I feel like he's a guy who, we didn't see him at all Oklahoma, as I mentioned. I don't know if he's going to factor into plans. Maybe he could end up doing it as he gets more comfortable and works his way in here, Elijah, but as of right now, it does seem like it's more of a Wilson, Ficklin, and then whatever role they want to use Nate Johnson in as the backup QB kind of option. I still have a hard time believing Nate Johnson won't get any snaps at the quarterback spot, even if he's not going to really throw the ball. But time remains to be seen. What did you make of Zurbrugg in the spring, and how do you see his role with this team playing out?
There was not much to make of him. He didn't really get any snaps until the second half of or 3/4 through spring practice. Yeah. It really was Dampier getting the 1 snaps, Byrd getting the 2 snaps, Wilson getting the 3 snaps for the majority of the camp. And so Zurbrugg, I didn't really see much from him. And so my analysis of him is like very shallow.
It's hard to.
It's really hard to. Obviously, he's talented because Oklahoma just doesn't go after bums at quarterback. Yeah. He's a talented kid, and he has the stature to he has like all the physical measurements that you want in a quarterback. And maybe in fall camp, he will get more looks. He'll, get more reps, and hopefully he does, because I think everyone should get a fair shot, especially in this quarterback room. Who knows? No one knows how the pecking order will shape out outside of Dampier being QB1. And so if he doesn't work out, then this is not like we can say, oh, this guy was going to be great, because we didn't see much about him. But I do think that based on the school that he came from, and I think you have to have some belief in him, that he has something in him to at least compete for a meaningful role in the quarterback room. We just haven't seen it in the Utah uniform, and I don't think Oklahoma saw it in an Oklahoma uniform either. And so I think that is where the iffiness comes in with him. I think he was pretty highly touted out of high school as well, and so
3-star, I think.
Yeah, so he has some merit to him out there. I really do think it is a Dampier, Wilson, Byrd pecking order. Realistically, I like what you said, that Byrd takes his redshirt year. You have Dampier at the 1, Wilson at the 2, and then Nate, factors in here and there, taking some snaps at quarterback. Is that how I want it to shape out? No, but I think that's how it will shape out. And Zurbrugg just seems right now to be the odd man out. I don't know why exactly. Maybe he's just not being able to pick up the playbook as fast. Maybe he doesn't really fit the playbook for the style of offense that Beck runs. But I just don't really see how he can factor in a meaningful way, and from what we know currently, into the quarterback room.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't seem likely right now, but it'll be fascinating to see how the room shakes out. One thing we do know is that Britain Covey is a member of the Rams. Really excited for Covey to continue his NFL career, especially in a place like the Rams, getting used by a mind like Sean McVay. He's obviously going to be mostly a return guy for them, and he was a good return guy for the Eagles. He just battled injury, so hopefully he can stay healthy in Los Angeles and This is a Rams team that, yes, they're a star power receiver. We all know Puka, of course, from BYU. They got Devontae Adams, the former All-Pro with the Packers, and a little stint with the Jets and Raiders, or more Raiders, but then Jets a little bit too. And then Tutu Atwell's their third guy, receiver out of Louisville. That's their top three. Outside of that, Elijah, it's pretty bare. I legitimately think Covey could get snaps for them as that crafty slot guy that's able to get going as he continues to get healthy, improve his route running, and settle into an NFL role. He's obviously a veteran with how much he's just played football throughout his life. So I like this spot. I think he's making this roster, and I do think he's going to have a chance to catch some passes from Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's where he was heading in Philly before he got injured. They were using him in the slot some games, and I think he provided some meaningful snaps for them. I still think, like you said, he'll be a majority return guy, which is nothing to scoff at because when healthy, he's one of the best punt returners in the league. And so when you factor, obviously his health is everything. If he can be healthy, he truly is a dual threat like he was at Utah. Maybe not as impactful on the wide receiver end just because of his stature and he really has that ball carrier vision on returns, which is rare, especially nowadays. You don't see like any Josh Cribbs much anymore or anything like that. And so Covey, being able to have provide that for the Rams, I think is a great pickup. And like you said on the wide receiver side, the Rams don't have a very deep wide receiver room. And I think while he won't get too many looks, if let's say Tutu Atwell goes down, who says Covey cannot be the slot receiver? Again, his health is everything. He still is, young in regards to league years. I think this is his like third or fourth year in the league.
I think so.
And so, and he hasn't even played a full season because of his injuries. And so he has low mileage in regards to facing these grown men. And I think as long as his rehab went well, as long as he can stay healthy, which I think the Rams obviously believe he can, which is why they signed him. I think he'll be a factor, and I'm excited to see how he pans out because my game worn Britain Covey jersey over here is just waiting to. It's just in the shadow box, and I cherish that thing. So I want to see him succeed.
What game is it from? The game worn jersey? Do you know?
It's from the Unity game.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I don't know. It might have been against UCLA in like.
I think so.
20. I don't know what year it is, but. It has
escaping me a little bit too, but either way, it's awesome that he has been able to carve out this role for himself as an NFL guy. Some guys just easy to root for. We root for all the Utah guys, but Covey, a great example of a Utah legend. So awesome to see him have that success. Always awesome when we get you on the show, Elijah. Make sure you guys go over and follow him on X. You didn't put it up, so what's your X again, Elijah?
It's at Elijah G Murray. I think it's at Elijah G Murray. I won't have any more Utah content because I'm back in Arizona. But all my content will from here on out be for my my master's program. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to check it out. And I still have all the old videos and from spring ball that you can like look over in case there's something you missed. But I appreciate all the support. I appreciate, JT. I appreciate you for letting me on the show even after I have departed Salt Lake City. And I'm just blessed to be in this position for.
Well, you earned everything, man. It was awesome to have you on this show so frequently. You're actually still going to appear on this show as well because of the great job you did covering this team. Make sure you guys do give them a follow. Those videos were always so awesome that you were able to provide that too. So always a blast, Elijah. Really appreciate you making the time to come on tonight, man.
Thank you. Anytime.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you tomorrow talking the latest in Utah football, Utah recruiting, and Utah athletics. Hope you'll join us then.